So before this video begins, I do want to give everyone a big thank you for your tremendous support in my last video. In my last video, I talked about the Nintendo backlash is getting insane, and last time that I uploaded that video, when I saw it, it had around like what? I think 1.7k views and 30 or 50 something likes, and at least by the time of the recording of this video, it has been 3 days ago since I uploaded that video, and it is now sitting at 2.4k views with 60 likes. So I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch that video. It really means a lot, and I'm just glad I found a topic that a lot of us were interested in, and I'm glad I was able to catch your attention. So I just want to thank you very much for the tremendous support on that video. That really means a lot. So with that out of the way, let's get on with the topic of today's video. So it has not been any open secret that Ubisoft has been just not performing too well as over the last several years. I mean, over the last like 5 years, I mean, it's been pretty well known that Ubisoft has been just dropping the ball very hard, and things have just been not going too well for them. I mean, their last several games that came out, I think like 8 out of their 10 major games just didn't really perform too well. Either they just caused a lot of controversy with games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, causing controversy with the Japanese government, or their games just commercially failed and didn't catch enough people's interest, or their games just underperformed in sales and they just weren't making enough money. And all of this has to do with a little quote that Ubisoft has been standing by for a very long time now, and it seems like they're going to be doubling down on this statement. And it seems like other companies are going to try to get involved with this mentality Ubisoft has as well. So, for those of you who do not know, let me catch you up to speed real quick. And I'm pretty sure some of you folks may remember this, but last year I made a video talking about how Ubisoft doesn't care anymore, and they took away a game called The Crew, which, if any of you folks watched that video from last year, you would know what I'm talking about. But Ubisoft has shut down a game called The Crew, which was basically an open world online driving game, and there was a group of people in California that, well, a group of people, I should say, that got together and they sued Ubisoft. And I definitely talked about that part as well a couple months ago, actually, in my other video about Ubisoft is getting sued because of what they have done. And from this point, Ubisoft has been standing by this ground of gamers should get comfortable not owning their games, and it's just been getting a lot worse for Ubisoft in a nutshell. And there's an article that I do want to pull up and kind of give you a little bit of an update on. The last time I talked about Ubisoft getting sued, I did say I would give you folks an update and I would try to keep a close eye on it, and it seems like we have somewhat of an update, so I'm going to be doing just that. But also, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and opinions on what I think about what we should do with Ubisoft going forward. And before I tell you what I think about Ubisoft, I'm going to read you the article. So, this article does come from Polygon.com. I'm going to read it to you folks, and then we will discuss afterwards. Ubisoft responded to Californian gamers The Crew shutdown lawsuit in late February, failing to dismiss the case. The company's lawyers argued in that filing reviewed by Polygon that there was no reason for players to believe that they were purchasing an unfiltered ownership right in the game, which I'll talk about in a minute. Ubisoft has made it clear. Lawyers claim that when you buy a copy of The Crew, you're merely buying a limited access license, which I'll talk about also in a minute. Frustrated with Ubisoft's recent decisions to retire the games following a notice period deadline on the product's packaging, plaintiffs apply a kitchen sink approach on behalf of putative class of nationwide customers, alleging 8 causes of actions, including violation of California's false advertising law, unfair Competition Law and Consumer Legal Redmits Act, as well as the common law fraud and breach of warranty claims, Ubisoft lawyers wrote. Ubisoft released The Crew, its open world racing game, in 2014 and shut down the servers a decade later in 2024 due to server infrastructure and licensing constraints. Because of The Crew was online only, it meant that the game became totally unplayable when the servers were turned off. Ubisoft offered refunds to players who recently purchased the game, but lots of people were unable to get refunds. The majority of players likely purchased the game much earlier. Throughout Ubisoft's response, the company's lawyer argued that, along with the licensing issue, that the plaintiffs don't have a case because of the statute of limitations. No real considerable injury, and what they described as inadequate arguments include in the response. A few pictures of the Crew's video game packaging present to prove that Ubisoft has labeled at least some of its versions with the licensing note. So basically, in a nutshell, Ubisoft is doubling down on their claim that gamers should get comfortable not owning their games. And if they're not going to let us actually buy the game, and if they're going to not let us actually purchase the game or buy the game, and if they don't want us having ownership, then piracy is not stealing the game, okay? Now, it's very, very rare that some people out there encourage people to pirate video games, but I talked about piracy, I think, like, maybe once or twice on the channel. I think it was maybe one time, but it's very rare that people will encourage people to pirate Ubisoft's games. But if Ubisoft doesn't want us buying their games, I mean, we all know what the word buying means. Like, when you buy something, you own it, right? But Ubisoft doesn't want us to actually buy or purchase something. And if they don't want us to buy anything, then piracy is not stealing anything. Let's be honest here, because Ubisoft has been standing by this statement very clear, and it's been made very clear by Ubisoft that they don't want people owning their products. So, if they don't want us, quote unquote, buying something, then it's only fair that we pirate Ubisoft's catalog. I mean, even like some of their major games that came out have just not really been that well. I mean, sure, some games may have done well in terms of sales performance, but let's be honest, like 8 out of their 10 games in like the last few years have just not been doing that too well. And their stock has taken like what? I think like a 90% drop in the company, maybe even more than that. I could be wrong about that part. I think I even heard rumors at one point where if Ubisoft's stock has dropped low enough, I think Tencent would try to like absorb them and try to like take some of their licenses that Ubisoft has previously owned. You know, games like the Assassin's Creed games and like the Crew games. So I think I heard rumors somewhere that Tencent was going to absorb them at some point if their stock dropped low enough. Now, part of the reason why most of these companies are like leaning towards this digital only future is for a couple reasons. Number one is the obvious one. They want more power and more control over their products, and they want more control over the customers. So if you decide to go back to a classic game one day, for all we know, they could just pull the plug and be like, "Nope, you don't own that game. You don't get to decide when you get to play those games anymore. We get to decide when we shut the game down, and we decide when we get to pull the plug on your favorite games. Deal with it." And obviously that has rubbed people the wrong way, and we can all agree, like, no, we want full control of our games, whether we have physical copies or digital copies. And part of the reason that people rather stick with physical media is because due to the poor distribution that digital games have been received over the last several years, and if something were bad to happen to the servers, then we could just resort to physical media. But even then, like, that doesn't even matter, because if the game requires you to download the data through an online internet access, then that disc is going to basically become a useless paperweight, and the digital copy you have is going to be a useless like terabyte and a useless megabyte. Now you might be trying to tell me, or you might be wondering, well, Nightwing, this is like a very old game. Why does anybody care about this? And why should we care? Because game preservation reasons. That's why. So I'm going to bring this up as an example, okay? And a lot of us can agree on this, but I still have my Nintendo GameCube, and I still have my Nintendo Wii, and I have a physical copy of Mario Kart Double Dash, and guess what? I can still play that game anytime I want. And whenever I plug it into the console, guess what? That game actually works and I can play it right then and there. Here's another example. I still have my PS2 and I still have a physical copy of Star Wars Battlefront, like the OG Battlefront, not like the classic collection pile of crap. No, I still have the OG Battlefront from 2004 for my PS2, and when I plug that game into the console, guess what? That thing actually works out of the box right then and there, and I can play it whenever I want. Funny how that works. But yet, these companies try to make it so like, oh, hey, you have to download the game through the internet, so when we decide it's time to pull the plug, then we can revoke your access to the game. And this should really concern and worry a lot of you lovely folks watching this video because we're at the point in the gaming industry where we are basically allowing these companies to just walk over the consumer and walk over their player base like they're some kind of rug and they can do whatever they want. But if people revolt enough and make some kind of stand, or if they find a way to financially damage these companies' pockets, then they'll have either two options. Either the companies will be forced to listen to the consumers, or they'll just continue to take the risks and double down, and then they're going to continue to lose all their money and all of their profits going forward with their PR speaks and their anti consumer decisions. So if they don't listen to the consumers, then chances are we're going to resort to more drastic measures, whether we go to boycotting games, whether we pirate their games and download the files and send it to our friends, whatever the case might be. Now, I'm not trying to sound mean here in a second, but part of the reason why these companies get away with 99% of this stuff is because of the casual gamers that basically allow them to. Meaning, like, they'll pre order the game, they'll buy their games digitally, and they'll try to get that 3-day early access to the game because the casual audience just is not aware enough of all these problems and they don't really look into this stuff as much. Maybe it's because I'm adulting a little bit more and I'm starting to realize like how scummy these companies are starting to become. Maybe it's because I'm becoming a boomer. I don't know. But what I do know is that casual gamers, once again, I'm not trying to sound disrespectful here. They're just basically allowing this stuff because maybe they just don't fully realize it, or they just want to just play the games for the sake of playing the game, and they just don't really give a flying fadoodle, and they just allow this stuff to happen. Like, just imagine this. We don't see, like, these other companies, like, for the chocolate milk industry, right? Let's just say I go to the grocery store just to get myself a chocolate milk, just to, help me wake up in the morning, or maybe I need a little pick me up. So I get myself chocolate milk, I head home, and I just do my usual stuff, drink my chocolate milk, and all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, the chocolate milk company just barges into my house like some kind of SWAT team, and they say, oh, hey, you don't own that chocolate milk, you bought a license to it. We're going to revoke your access to that chocolate milk, young man. And then they take a vacuum and shove it down my throat, and then they suck all the chocolate milk back and bring it back to their company. You know why? Because that doesn't happen. We don't allow that kind of crap to happen with these companies. That never has happened, and that never will happen, and that's never gonna happen in a million years. Unless we allow these companies to do stuff like that and walk over the consumer like that. And yet Ubisoft thinks that they can just get away by talking down to the consumer and treat them like they're some kind of peasant within the game industry, and they can try to still revoke people's access even though they're not in a really good position to talk down to their customers right now or their player base. And Ubisoft still thinks that they hold the winning hand, and they're like, oh hey, we still have the right and the power over you as a company, so we're going to revoke your game access whether you like it or not. If that's going to be the case, then my response to this is okay, have fun continuing to see your stocks decline in value, and have fun losing millions of dollars in your company, and have fun continuing to lose all those employees that help made Ubisoft what Ubisoft is, and have fun continuing to see the decline of your company, and one day when your company goes bankrupt, you'll be seeing your CEOs on the side of the streets living in a cardboard box just eating like beans out of a can, and they'll be wondering like, where did we go wrong with Ubisoft? So I know that sounds really harsh and really mean, but at the end of the day, why should I care about these corporate assholes and these CEOs when they have been just disrespecting the consumer for so long? If you're going to continue to test the limits of your customers and your players, and you're going to continue to try to alienate and try to destroy the consumer's rights of buying products, then we're going to continue to take a stand and financially harm your pockets by any means necessary. So I'm going to continue to stand my ground as a consumer of video games, and I'm going to continue to boycott all Ubisoft games going forward, and I'm going to continue to see Ubisoft continue down this massive decline that they have been going down over the last few years, and I truly hope that Ubisoft goes bankrupt. They might have some unique IPs like Assassin's Creed, but I just really don't care at the end of the day because of the direction that Ubisoft has gone down. And as long as they continue down this path, I really could care less for the company, and I could care less for their IPs. So I'm gonna continue to stick with my older title games that I actually own and that I actually have the rights to play that Ubisoft cannot take away from me. And if they don't like that, they can cry about it. So with this being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. And until next time, I'm talking about the massive decline of Ubisoft, and I will see you all later.